Hello everyone, my name is Alian Daitwala, and today we are with another special guest. Uh, his name is Anthony. So, in this interview, we will note about him and his work. So, hello, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I am also fine. First of all, I want to very thankful to you for giving me your precious time.
You know, when a young, ambitious person like you ask, and I have the time and possibility, I try to help out. So hopefully, I can give you something.
Thank you so much. Okay, one. Okay, so my first of all, I want to before moving on the question, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, I can. Anthony Lassinai, keynote speaker, traveling the world, inspiring people when it comes to how we communicate in the workplace, how we get motivated and engaged in the workplace, and how we have fun together, doing good things.
Okay, that's great. So my first question in your screen: how did you first become interested in combining your role as a professional speaker with your passion for philosophy?
That is a question. That's what I call a powerful question. We need to kind of perhaps decipher what philosophy means in this context. Are we talking about Plato and Socrates and so on, or are we talking about the way I view life, or what is it that you want to know more about, Alian? Tell me.
Sorry.
Is it about the great thinkers of the world, or is it my view on how I perceive the life we're living and things like that? Which one is it that we talk about?
Actually, I don't understand your meaning.
What do you mean with philosophy?
This is my question. I want to ask you what is philosophy and how do you become interesting in your role as a professional speaker in philosophy?
Well, I'm not schooled in what we can call theoretical philosophy. I mean, I've read some of it. I found it very interesting. But today, it's more about my own kind of collected, combined, I wouldn't call it wisdom yet. I'm not old enough. I'm older than you, but I'm not that old. But kind of my own combined ideas about what works and what doesn't work in the world and where we're heading and so on. And I guess that looking into all the things that we do right now that shows us that we understand some of the dangers we're in, talking about the climate, for instance, and still do nothing about it. What is going on there? How can I be of help somehow? How can I create a metaphorical airbag so we don't smash into that mountain full speed ahead? What can I do to help good people in good companies or good organizations to do good things? That is what I kind of aim for. I don't know if it's a philosophy, but I believe that, I believe in the good of people. So let's see if we can get more of that and less of the evil or the short-sightedness. And I believe in something I call sustainable growth. Growing is fine, but it has to be sustainable. Otherwise, there is no there's no business on a dead planet, basically. So I think I know how to do my craft, how to communicate my insights, but I'm not important by myself. I consider myself more of a Sherpa who help, again, the good organizations to kind of climb that extra step and be really good. That's what I do. So I see myself as a Sherpa.
Okay. So my second question in your screen: could you share a defining moment or experience that lead you to realize the potential of merging these two fields?
I don't see a defining moment specifically. It's more like what has kind of the compounded effect of all the experiences I've had that led me to understand that certain things are good and certain things are not. And using then my skills of how to communicate what I believe is good and true and authentic. There have been a number of pivotal moments for me where I've kind of been led towards this path. Things that have happened, for instance, I'm pretty useless when it comes to assembling things or repairing things. I needed to be good at something else. And when people told me that I was pretty good at communicating, for instance, I found that I had a talent for it, and I followed that talent and I built on it, and all the time. Even in school, when I was in your age and so on, things happened that made me kind of take this step instead of that step and so on. So there is no one defining moment for me when it comes to merging philosophy. It's just philosophy is part of who I am and what I believe in. And then it's just a matter of channeling that out somehow.
Okay. So, as a thought leader, how do you anticipate the evolving needs of your B2B audience and adjust your content accordingly?
What I talk about is what's called sometimes evergreen. It's not a trend topic. It's more about how do we make sure that we are motivated and engaged, and how do we make sure that we can collaborate and cooperate with each other? How can we lead people? How can we serve clients? How can we collaborate with our friends and colleagues? So from that perspective, I don't need to look at the trend of it. What I do instead is that whenever I have a gig, a keynote coming up, I do want to talk to the customer, to the organizer, and ask them, what is the purpose? What is the goal? What is the situation you're in right now? What are your core values? What is important to you? And then I use that information to tailor my examples so it fits that audience. I don't, again, do trends. I have done some when it comes to the pandemic. I've looked into specifically about remote leadership for a while and then hybrid leadership for a while. But those things are soon to be just everyday life. So that's why I see it. But I have done some specifics when it comes to trends. Otherwise, I stick with my guns where I'm good, and then I leave the rest to other accomplished people.
Okay. What are some key philosophical principles that you find particularly relevant to the world of business and professional interactions?
That is again a powerful question. What is it that are around right now? This is not a philosophy, but if you look at Darwin's survival of the fittest, it's time to us to realize that we cannot exploit the world as we do today, because then soon enough we are not the fittest anymore. We need to do something else. I'm coming back to my sustainability focus, and that is something we really need to look at. The whole thing about short-sightedness when it comes to quarterly reports, only caring about profits today and not understanding that we need to have a functioning society tomorrow is kind of almost depressing. I'm a bit afraid, and I hope that we will change very soon for your sake, more than for mine. I've lived a life soon, so I mean, but you are, you kind of grow up and become one of those members adult members of the world and a world citizen, and I just hope that you will have all the great possibilities you can, so we don't ruin the planet right now. But when it comes to specific philosophies, I can't say. Probably there are, but I don't have a good answer to you right now.
Okay. How do you approach translating complex philosophical concept into practical insight that resonate with your B2B audience?
Again, I'm not a schooled philosophy student. I do it as a hobby. So there's probably other people who can answer that question more. I can see now that it's about philosophy more than for me, when it's more about communication and motivation for me. Can you read the question one more time and see if I can give you some kind of good answer to it at least, so see if it's valuable?
Okay.
You talked about complex philosophical something. I just need to find it.
How do you approach translating complex philosophical concept into practical insight that resonate with your B2B audience?
Okay. So for me, philosophy is again really interesting, but I also spend a lot of time psychology, more than I do with philosophy. So what I pride myself of is to take complex matter and make them simple. Not stupid, but simple. So for instance, if I look into a psychological branch called compassion-focused therapy, and looking into the three systems, symbolic systems of the brain, I can translate it pretty quickly into an understandable English, so to say, so that people get it. And I do that with everything. When I look into what I talk about, almost 100% are rooted in psychology and research. And to some extent philosophy, but more psychology. And then it's a matter of for me, skipping complex language, skipping abbreviations, and just make it very simple and clear. So clarity is one of the superpowers of communication. I believe that there are three: empathy, clarity, and energy. But I need to make sure that I'm clear so that whoever is listening understands what I'm saying. If they don't, then I've failed as a communicator. So that's what I do. Whichever complex issues I'm talking about, and many of them are, talking about how to get along, it's not easy. How communication is not easy. But finding those simple methods and tools, not to say that anyone is, I sometimes call it keep it simple, not stupid. And stupid is when it's too simple or when it's too complex. So it has to be just right. And that's where I want to be. Does it make sense to you?
Okay, so my next question in your screen, can you describe a time when an audience engagement with your philosophical perspective significantly impacted their approach to business?
No, because again, when I talk about philosophy, I don't talk about philosophy. That's the thing. I'm not talking about philosophy as such. I'm not talking about Kant or Nietzsche or Hegel or whoever. I talk about my aggregated wisdom of what I found is useful to the world. And from that perspective, just mentioning the three communicative superpowers often to the point of being transformational. For instance, I talk about empathy on great length. And it's always rewarding when I talk to somebody afterwards saying, you know what, I need to listen more. I need to be more curious. It's not about me, it's about them. Things like that, small things like that make a difference. That's what I like to see. And it happens quite often. So from that perspective, it works. If we talk about pure philosophy, I'm not your guy. It's probably...
Okay, LinkedIn is a prominent platform for B2B networking. How do you leverage its future to create meaningful connection and opportunities?
I post stories, insights, tips 2 to 3 times per week. And I also connect with people who I believe we can share some sort of value to each other, insights, so I can learn from and that I hopefully can share something back. That's what I do on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is actually my playground. I don't do anything else. I don't do Facebook I have a Facebook account, don't use it much, except for some groups. I also have an obscure Instagram account that I don't use much at all. But LinkedIn is my place. That's where I spend my time when it comes to social media.
Okay, so my next question in your screen: what specific strategies do you employ to maintain a professional yet authenticated personas on LinkedIn?
Well, I do two things basically. One is that I give some sort of personal touch to it. I share a personal story sometimes, quite often actually, but I always relate it back to some sort of business lesson. This is not Facebook. This is not Instagram. This is a professional network, and I try to be as professional as I possibly can while using personal examples. So that's what I do a lot of times. I don't believe that LinkedIn is and I can see the trend going that way, but I'm stubborn here. I want like 8 posts out of 10 should be with some sort of business value in mind. Then I can have 1, perhaps 2, where I say something about I'm so grateful that I'm here to speak or something like that. But I want to give value. Otherwise, there's no point. And then I hope everyone does the same. But I'm not very interested if I see somebody saying, "Oh, it's tough right now because my pet died." Yeah, I get it. I feel for you. Put it on Facebook. Unless you have something to say about it from a business perspective, from a professional perspective, then it's all fine. Then I can use it perhaps and say, yeah, I can see how that sorrow leads you into something better, or helps you with insights about cherishing, the relationships you have today with your colleagues, or do something with it at least to make it be worthwhile for me reading. I mean, if it's about Instagram post or Facebook post, I would rather read it on other channels actually.
Okay, so my next question in your screen: in what way does your approach to networking on LinkedIn differ from traditional networking method, and what advantage does it offer?
Well, this today is the traditional networking method for me. And the other one is face to face. I mean, not face to face, but in person events where you meet people. And of course, that is the richest form of communication. When we are doing this right now, it's on a 2D screen. It's awesome because you live in one part of the world, I live in another part of the world. The fact that we can do this is pretty amazing. But it's not as rich as it is when it comes to in-person events. LinkedIn, again, I use Sales Navigator and LinkedIn Premium. I can find people that I believe that we can have a mutual interest of connecting with each other. I have a sales assistant in India who helps me with that as well, finding and connecting and so on. So I use her quite a lot. Priyanka is her name, and she helps me with just connecting with the right people by having that skill set. So I used LinkedIn from that perspective, from a networking perspective. Also, when I have been to a conference, for instance, meeting up some people, I want to connect with them on LinkedIn as well, so that we keep that or maintain that relationship somehow. That's what I do.
Okay, so how do you strike a balance between simulating deeper thought and delivering activable takeaways in your speaking engagement?
Well, it's about sharing stories, insights, philosophy, psychology, and then having a couple of concrete takeaways as well. Something that they can work on right now. I wouldn't say that I'm a pure inspirational and motivational speaker where everything is just about carpe diem or just try to be positive or something like that. I want to create also some actionable items within my speech. So that's how I kind of do it. But it's kind of that mix with stories, some humor, some insights, and then into some actions as well, or tips, concrete tips.
Okay, so my next question: can you elaborate on a situation where a philosophical discourse led to a transformational shift in a business leader mindset?
If my philosophy is that we should have what I call sustainable growth, and understanding that people are not always on their top game, sometimes when they feel threatened, you cannot get access to the higher functions of the brain. If they're frustrated, they cannot get access to the higher functions of the brain. So what I talk about sometimes is the brain's traffic light. You don't want it to be red. You don't even want it to be yellow. You want it to be green, where you feel safe and secure and where you can do good things. When I talk about that and explain to people why you have that level of engagement that you have, this could be one of those pivotal moments sometimes, or even transformational moments, where they say, we need to be on the top floor. If we want to talk about the building, for instance, we need to be there. What can we do in order to get there? And that's when I also provide some of the concrete things. Again, that's probably something that happens inside that moment, but I do have a plan presenting the hidden reasons for why we are engaged or not is something that most people haven't thought about really. So that's probably my pitch when it comes to this. Do that.
Okay, so my next question: how do you continuously develop and refine your speaking style to maintain engagement while discussing philosophical themes?
So let's say that I have a core being and a core philosophy and a core vision of what I believe is right and just and good and so on, and how people function. Pair that with psychology and research. I practice. I ask for feedback. I believe it hurts like hell sometimes. When I have honest people saying that didn't work, you should do that better. But I also try to improve my game all the time. Technologically as well, when it comes to virtual sessions, but also physical sessions. It could be simple things. Sometimes it's just a matter of changing a template on a PowerPoint, if I use PowerPoint, or getting that story into my presentation that I hadn't had before, and then I need to remove perhaps something else or time some things. I have a long way to go before I'm a master of anything. I'm pretty good at what I do. Otherwise, I wouldn't be around for like 17 years now as a self-employed. Longer than you lived, my friend. But I can never, it's not in my DNA to rest completely. I had to kind of find ways to improve my game somehow. I'm better today than I was 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 15 years ago. And I hope that I will be better in 5 years than I am today.
Okay, that's great. How do you feel to talk to me?
Apart from the fact that I felt that I couldn't give you as much value as I wanted to because of the pure focus on philosophy, it was fun to do that. And hopefully, I mean, again, you're 14, you're driven, ambitious. I like it. I just wanted to reward you somehow by doing this interview with you. How do you feel?
I am also feel great. So at the end, would you like to give some advice to my audience?
Is it about entrepreneurship? Don't be afraid to try and improve your game. We can always be a little bit better than what we are today. We can be a bit better tomorrow, but don't be afraid to try. And I would say also that if you've done something really well, don't just shrug it off and move on. What was it that was good? Find out. Do more of that. And be nice to yourself. Be kind to yourself, because you will fall many times. But it's like the saying goes: the master have failed more times than the amateur even tried. I'm not saying you should fail. I don't like to fail. I hate failing. But I shouldn't be afraid of trying. Good luck to you.
Okay, thank you so much. You teach a lot of things in this short time period. I hope everyone something new with your talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye bye.